Throughout your career as a pilot, you will most likely fly a variety of airplanes, ranging from small single-engine trainers up to the very large multi-engine jet transport airplanes. It may seem obvious, but these airplanes not only look different from one another, but more importantly, they vary significantly in their performance. The reason for this is that different aircraft are designed to fulfill different roles. The nature of these roles plays a big part in the level of regulation and safety imposed by the aviation authorities on these airplanes. For example, if an airplane were designed to carry a large number of passengers over a long distance at high speed, the consequence of its performance failing to meet the prescribed standards would be catastrophic. It's therefore prudent to ensure that the very strictest performance rules are applied to these types of airplanes. To achieve this aim, the aviation authorities have segregated airplanes into certain classes, so that the authorities are better able to apply the associated level of performance regulations and ensure a greater level of safety. To this end, 4 principal classes have been established for all public transport airplanes. These are Class A, Class B, Class C, and lastly, unclassified. We'll examine Class A airplanes first. Class A is used for all multi-engine turbopropeller airplanes having 10 or more passenger seats or a maximum takeoff mass of 5,701 kilograms or more, and includes all multi-engined turbojet airplanes. This class of aircraft meets the European Aviation Safety Agency certification specifications for large airplanes as detailed in CS25 Book 1. The performance regulations for Class A airplanes are the most stringent of all the classes, and must take into account reasonably expected adverse operating conditions, such as takeoff and landing on contaminated runways. Engine failure in all flight phases must also be a prime consideration. Should an engine failure occur, the airplane must be able to land at a suitable airfield so that a forced landing is not necessary. The reason for these strict performance regulations is simply due to the fact that this type of airplane carries the greatest potential for performance failure risk because of its high speed and high potential passenger loads. Airplanes which fall into this class range from the small business jets to the huge Airbus A380 and the Boeing 747. The airplane we will be examining in detail when analyzing this class is the Boeing 737-400 and 737-800 series, as shown here. The second class of airplane for public transport is Class B. This includes all propeller-driven airplanes having 9 or fewer passenger seats and a maximum takeoff mass of 5,700 kilograms or less. This class does not meet the European Aviation Safety Agency certification specifications for large airplanes, and can include both single and twin-engined airplanes. The performance regulations for this class are not as stringent as for the Class A airplane, but they still include allowance for engine failure in all flight phases as for the multi-engined airplane, except below 300 feet. This means that should an engine failure occur above 300 feet, the airplane should be able to land at a suitable airfield without a forced landing being necessary. However, because a forced landing will inevitably result from engine failure on a single-engine airplane, they are not permitted to fly at night, or in IMC, or in such areas where a suitable landing surface is not available. Examples of this class of aircraft are the PA-28 Piper Warrior, the Beechcraft Bonanza, and the twin-engined Piper Seneca. The single-engined airplane we will be using when analyzing this class is the Beechcraft Bonanza. The multi-engined aircraft will be the Piper Seneca II, as shown here. The third class of airplane is Class C. This class includes all piston-engined airplanes with 10 or more seats or a maximum takeoff mass of 5,701 kilograms or more. This class has similar regulations to the class taking into account reasonably expected adverse operating conditions, such as takeoff and landing on contaminated runways, and consideration of engine failure in all flight phases. Examples of such airplanes include DC-3s and DC-6s. However, for the JAA Airline Transport Pilot License Performance exam, no more detail is needed for this class, and it forms no part of the learning syllabus, since there are very few airplanes of this type operating in the public transport category. The last class of airplane is the unclassified class. This caters for those airplanes whose design affects their performance in such a way that they cannot comply with the previously mentioned class regulations. Such aircraft include seaplanes and supersonic aircraft. The class unclassified does not mean that these aircraft do not have performance regulations. They most certainly do. It's just that these regulations have to be tailor-made for each individual type of airplane concerned. As with the Class C, this class is not examined in the JAA ATPL Performance exam and is not part of the learning syllabus.